Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track by an act named Ashes of Tomorrow titled The Walking Dead. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. Now, as far as I'm aware, not only is this the first release from Ashes of Tomorrow, so it'd be good to get the first impressions there, but also this is based off of the TV show with the zombie apocalyptic universe, The Walking Dead. So, I mean, like, if you have watched that show before, you'll probably know what's going on within this. I've watched a bit of it myself, so I have like a rough idea. But we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. I'm going to hear what we think. Let's go. So a couple of comments. I won't interrupt too much. Just a couple of things I'm hearing. One, I'm loving the vocals. The tone is great. I'm happy with the technique they're displaying here. Fits the mood of the song really well as the story that's being told. The drums sound great. Really happy with the drum grooves. The guitars, I'm wondering if those guitars have been double tracked. Now, we're going to get this out of the way so I don't spend time on it at the end of the review. Real quick. When you're recording rhythm guitars, if we aren't already, we have to record two separate tracks. This is a mistake I made when I first started doing recording. And I'm not saying this has happened with this one necessarily. That might have just been a decision to pan the rhythm guitar in the middle. You have to do two separate takes of the same rhythm guitar part. Because what will happen is if you copy and paste one take you've done onto the other side of the stereo field, it'll phase and it'll go into the center of the stereo field bit, and it'll just sound a bit weird. I'm not saying this happened here, but just in case anyone's watching this and now they're wanting to record stuff, you want to double track, especially middle rhythm guitars to the left and right, usually between 80 to 100% either side, and that should be good. You don't want to copy and paste takes. It's a really crispy guitar tone, I love it. I mean, like, we're all slaves on a burning sky. Like, these are awesome lyrics. I mean, it's just charming. It's just charming off the bat. Like, and I say that as a fan of metal. I grew up in the mid-2000s where there was a lot of stuff like this going on. So maybe I have a bit of a bias towards it. I think that it's well played. And I like the clean vocals in that center field. I think it's nice to go between the growlers and the cleans and the hook, make it a bit more sort of catchy, without being kind of, superficial about it. Really pretty harmonies on those rhythms. Great change of pace as well. Bringing in the solo section, smart move here, harmonizing in fourths. Actually, we're just fading out here. I mean, I've got no real complaints aside from a few things I mentioned that are like little things, you know. All right. Yeah. No, I think that I'm feeling predominantly positive about it. You know, there's a few things, but aside from that, it's good. Because this is the conclusion of my review of this track by Ashes of Tomorrow, titled The Walking Dead. What do I think this track is about? I think track is about, well, it's a tribute to The Walking Dead. Talking about the world that they're in, the walkers being the zombies, fighting for their life, trying to find their way home, you know, knowing they're all alone, trying to find a way out of the situation, the hellscape that they're in. I think it's a cool thing to write a song about. I honestly would like more music about this kind of stuff, simply because I think anything that is different than the plethora of tracks about like relationships or, you know, like, you know, make more stuff about like stuff like this, you know. It's refreshing to hear people talk about stuff and get involved in, especially stuff they're passionate about, because you can tell that Ashes Tomorrow are quite passionate about this series. They clearly know quite a bit about it, and the performance there with vocally telling the story, I think a lot of people who appreciate The Walking Dead will be able to vibe with this, but the vocals from Ashes Tomorrow, cleans and growled vocals are good. I'm happy with the vast majority of it. We had different ways of expressing ourselves across like the verses, bridges, and choruses, but the more sort of full-on kind of throaty, kind of growly low-end stuff going on. The aggression with the verses was fantastic. I think that we had like more kind of whispery kind of stuff going on with the bridge section, which is another way of articulating ourselves. That kind of takes the listener out of the focus of having that one tone, giving them another, and then boom, you go into that hook section, and then they're straight into like the clean parts. And it's just great contrast between elements there. It easily identifies what part is which, and it helps the listener go, oh, I know this part, that's cool. I think as well, I think it's a really smart move to have clean vocals for the chorus, because what you do then is it makes it so much easier for people to understand what is being said. Now, kudos as well to Ashes of Tomorrow for having a lyric video. That's great for people like me, right? But in addition to that, simply there's a lot of people who like just may not understand growled or like shrieked vocals or any of the kind of middle variety of middle vocals, any of that kind of stuff, or vocal fry. They might not understand it as well as if it's being sung. So we have those things there, and it's the hook. That's that kind of main sort of like line. Obviously, you want to hear the verse parts and the bridge parts, but usually the hook is the big one. So we nailed that, and I'm really happy with that. The note choices for the vocals in the horror section were great, and I think that just in general, I'm happy with it. This is a really great first impression. Like, I think that they're at a level where they'll just continue to keep forward and continuing to improve, and I'm stoked. I think in addition to that, we have a situation here where with, you know, Ashes of Tomorrow, they have created a track that is just on that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, just at 4 minutes, and just slightly shorter probably because of the outro part, but I think that's awesome, because we have a song where like there's just so much in it. There are so many different little riff parts and passages there. Even within the verse sections, we aren't thoroughly content with just having the string skipping part. We'll go to those upper harmonies, and then we'll kind of bring it down again for the bridge, or like we'll do something different there, and for the chorus it's more sort of anthemic with double kicks and all this sort of fun stuff going on. Then we have solo sections and other little fun bits and interludes, and just so much stuff going on structurally that it just brings the listener and pulls them through from start till finish so easily. You know, it's really good songwriting. They've got that nailed. You know, and also like the guitar, bass, and drum parts outside of the vocals worked really well together. We have the drum parts, which are fantastic in the way that they are just nice and present in the mix. There's lots of different sort of drum grooves and little fill and sort of double kick passages there, without ever being too much. There's variety with them, and they know to back off a little bit so there's not the same thing all the time for the listener. It makes it more interesting to listen to when they there is change, but you still have the consistency of the main grooves and like the hook passages and stuff like that, so the listener can still feel comfortable with that awareness whilst also expecting that things will change and remain interesting. The bass lines, you know, and that low end were nice and kind of full sounding and fragrant, and really suited the groove of the drums well as everything else, and were a nice sort of foundation for the vocals and the guitar parts to sit on. I think that in regards to the guitar parts, I know earlier I mentioned that I wasn't sure if they were being double tracked or not. I did hear guitar panning later on, so I assume it's probably a stylistic decision, so that's fine. I understand in a sense why that was done, because there were very few like lead elements there at that point. If we go back a little bit, I just want to like just check. Yeah, no, so there were no vocal parts, so it was okay for the guitars to be in the center. That might have been the lead guitar doing that. So maybe they just didn't feel comfortable maybe having it by itself. Maybe they wanted to bring the guitars in and widen it up as the song went forward. And to be fair, it didn't sound like it was empty sounding or anything like that. It got bigger sounding in the verse, in the chorus sections. You know, there's a lot to love and appreciate. I just figured I'd point that out. I've just got to be open with my kind of like, you know, feedback about the music that I'm listening to, because otherwise what's the point, right? But you know, the guitars sounded wider in the chorus sections. There was some interesting sort of like arpeggiated sort of paddy kind of stuff going on to kind of alternate with the chugged and the string skip parts and the big chords that we had in those hook sections. We obviously had like solos and harmonized guitar parts and etc. They were articulate and well thought out in their phrasing, and we had a fundamental understanding of music theory and composition shown. With how all of these different elements came together, I'm really happy with the variety of different components, how they were integrated, and no real complaints at this point. I think that it's well thought out and very interesting. The theme there, the overall sound of the guitars with the aggression, but also with the beauty that's kind of like the human condition struggling in hell, basically. I think there was a nice different, because there was a sweetness to those vocal parts as well in the chorus section. We weren't trying to just make it like heavy for the sake of being heavy, right? We had lots of coloration in the mix. And I think how pretty the lead parts were with those really interesting harmonies, those fourths that kind of more sort of like proud and brazen, with the wide variety of stuff shown by the vocals and the story that was being told there of defiance and trying to talk about how you're alone but trying to find your way home and trying to get through it. And there's a complexity to it, I suppose, with the motif that mirrors the story and the lyrics well, and the vocals. But they put it all together nicely, wrapped it up in a neat little bow. And yeah, ultimately I think I'm very happy with this, especially as a first track. It's dope, man. I really hope they make more music. I think that yeah, outside of this, the recording, mixing, and mastering is splendid. I'm really happy now that I've taken a bit of time to think about it with how it was done. I think that the way the guitars were recorded and handled was articulate. We really didn't need to put too much more into it than what we did, and in the sense of like the vocals were handled well. I think the leveling for those various styles and sections was good. There's, you know, the compression, filtering, EQ, and the growled and shrieked parts and the whispered kind of stuff was kind of dope. You know, the vocals and the cleaner vocals and the hook line, that bit of reverb to them, a little bit of filtering there to kind of like allow for a bit more of a misty atmospheric feel to them. Like they were kind of like the thoughts in your head kind of telling you stuff. And then the guitars were nice and crispy and fizzy and fun to listen to, and they suited the genre well and the style well. The bass was nice and loud and controlled, and the drums had a great presence in the mix, kind of side-chaining everything else a little bit, but not too much. The leveling of the various instruments in the mix was good, as well as the vocals on top. It was nice and wide in the stereo field, especially when the additional guitar elements like kicked in. That was a smart move to maybe widen things up as we went, so that's cool. The dynamic range, there was dynamic range to this. You know, it didn't sound the same loudness the entire time, which I thoroughly appreciate. Thank you for having range there in terms of that. And it was nice and loud without pumping, so the limiting compression was handled well. I mean, effectively, this is a very positive first impressions of Ashes of Tomorrow stuff with the track The Walking Dead, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.